Hey there, Solemn Salmon here. As many of you will know, I'm not the biggest fan of the Fleet Manager introduced in the Cherry update. Whilst it can be a useful tool, it's a tad broken and unintuitive. One of the best fixes for many of its problems is to design your ships manually, deactivating auto-generate and using auto-best with caution. Whilst annoying, this gives you the opportunity to really get into the nitty-gritty of ship design, making sure your corvettes and cruisers are up to scratch, maximising defense and offense, lasers and kinetics. If you don't fancy such constant micromanagement, then hopefully this video is for you. I'm going to take a look at some of the best ship loadouts at various points in the game, with brief discussion of the pros and cons of various weapons and components. And bear in mind that these are largely my opinion and what I've found to work, and might not represent the mathematically optimum loadouts. As such, if you think you've got a better suggestion, I'd love to hear it and try it out for myself, so make sure to drop a comment. Anyway, let's get started. Corvettes are the staple ship of the early game, if only because they're the only class you'll have access to for a large part of it. Cheap, quick to build, and speedy in deployment, Corvettes will always be a major part of your fleet, so it's a good idea to get their loadout right early on. The key moment comes when you finish researching autocannons, which complement Corvette's speed and evasion beautifully when combined with the Swarm combat computer. Having received a slight upgrade with the Cherry update, autocannons now deal plus 100% damage to shields and plus 25% damage to hull, making them merciless weapons of death. They're also ridiculously accurate, with the 75% tracking negating a significant amount of enemy corvettes' evasion, their strongest defense. Where autocannons let you down is the minus 75% damage to armor and the distinct lack of range, but each of these can be negated. By pairing your autos with lasers, which deal additional damage to armor, you can balance your corvettes out, but the real combo comes when you unlock plasma throwers, which deal plus 100% damage to armor and plus 50% damage to hull, although you need at least a fusion reactor to provide enough power. With the Swarm combat computer, the lack of range becomes a non-issue, and you'll also benefit from additional evasion and fire rate. This Corvette build works pretty well regardless of what phase of the game you're in, as long as you continue to upgrade components as you research new versions. The only major change is in the final weapon slot in the late game, where you'll be better off switching to gamma lasers over the plasma cannon due to its higher damage and range. As the game progresses and new larger ships begin to appear, I like to throw in a second Corvette build, missile boats. You won't need too many of this Corvette in your fleet, and should only start using them once cruisers become more common towards the end of the early game, as their lack of tracking makes them less effective when fighting corvettes or even destroyers. The other weapon slot can be filled with anything really, but as missiles completely bypass shields, adding an energy siphon can be of great benefit to the fleet as a whole, until they're made obsolete by railguns and the Gauss cannon. Once battleships begin to appear, switch over to torpedoes. With their devastating damage, combined with shield penetration, a squadron of torpedo boats can be battleship and Titan killers in the late game. Make sure to use the Picket combat computer for your missile and torpedo boats to keep them at a longer range than the rest of your corvettes, and to take advantage of a bonus to tracking. Defensively, you should always consider your enemy ship's weapon loadout and pick shields and armor to counter it. As a rule of thumb though, I find picking 2 armor is your best bet, as this helps provide a little extra defense against enemy corvettes running an autocannon loadout, as the autocannons, and their shield annihilating prowess, will have more accuracy than lasers or plasma, so your armor will last longer. Finally, you should prioritize afterburners for your auxiliary slot to help provide as much of a boost to evasion as you can. Hopefully these ship builds will give you an edge over your enemies, but bear in mind the technologies you research and the challenges you face will more than likely require you to play around with these options, so don't be afraid to switch it up if you feel you need to. Anyhow, like and subscribe if this video was of use, and don't forget to drop any suggestions in the comments. This has been Solemn Salmon. Until next time.